It was a Connecticut coronation as UConn cut down the nets in Houston and really considered a dark horse of that tournament last year as a 4-seed, Matt. And they dominated all the way through. So you're like, were they really a dark horse? Well, they were a 4-seed, and they won it all. Give us your dark horse for this year's tournament.
So I'm going to give you a dark horse that not quite to win a championship, although if you wanted to give me that one, I'd say Creighton from the 3-line, another Big East team. I think that St. Mary's sitting there on the 5-line is a good dark horse pick to make the Elite 8. So keep that in mind. I like what the Gales have defensively. We're trying to give you some teams here. Remember, we have been upset-laden in this bracket since it ever started, but in particular in the past decade, we have seen a lot of teams seeded worse than 5th break through the Elite 8 and Final Four. I think the Gales are a sneaky good pick. They've only have 2 losses in the past 2.5 months.
Yeah, I mean, dark horse, it's really what the definition is, right? You thought UConn last year was a dark horse? Because what?
For some.
From a 4 seed to win the championship is a dark horse pick.
I agree. So I don't have anybody who's going to win a championship, but I'm going to give you a team until you get to a second weekend, and that's going to be McNeese State. Oh, man, I love the matchup against Gonzaga. Yes, because Gonzaga, what are you going to get? Yeah, they've had a moment or two, but a majority of the season, they've been disappointing. Heck, about a month ago, we weren't even sure if they were going to make the tournament.
You're right.
McNeese State's won 30 games. They have veterans. They have guards that can go out there and get buckets. I just see Gonzaga, and I'm just like, I know we want to pencil them into that second weekend, but not this year. This is a completely different squad. McNeese State doesn't win 1 game. They win 2 games, and ironically enough, they're in the same bracket as Purdue. And Purdue, once again, walks into another great situation, which they did a couple of years ago when they ran into St. Peter's.
You sort of just said it right there, TD. The unpredictability of what we're about to see over these next couple of weeks is what makes this so great. But the music often stops early on those types of stories. So let's get to the end scene here. I got Jerry Palm telling me all year long that it's chalky, it's 1 seeds. The top 3 in the country are head and shoulders better than everybody else. How do you see your Final Four?
Yeah, I mean, so much this has to do with matchups, right? And who do you have to play? Like, I think Creighton has a really tough game. In their first game, they play Akron. Akron's really physical. They don't like physical teams. Like, that's going to be a barn burner. But after Creighton gets by Akron, well, then all of a sudden, I got him in the Final Four. Everybody, let's go to the Blue Jay, okay? Baylor, Shireman, Kalkbrenner. They got guys that can get buckets. This is the Get Buckets Final Four. North Carolina, that is a cakewalk to the Final Four. If I'm North Carolina, I'm doing this right now. I'm doing the Ric Flair to the Final Four. I mean, that is just easy peasy there. And then, yes, Kentucky's a team that can score, and then Illinois. Their team can go out, get out there and get 90. Terrence Shannon's back. They've looked outstanding lately. So this is my get buckets, but North Carolina, they're going to be strutting into that Final Four.
Rolex wearing. Coming off the top rope of the Final Four for us?
All right, so here's, I don't know if I can pull the top rope, but regardless, I'll say this. I'm going to give you my teams. I reserve the right to change this in the next 48 hours.
Disclaimer.
A lot of pressure. I'm disgusted with these Final Four picks, but at the same time, they very well make it happen. I'm going to go UConn. There's no way I'm not taking UConn. I know it's in the toughest region. I'm not going to not take UConn to make the Final Four.
I'm not going to not? That means
correct.
You are.
Hey, my segment, Doyle. Houston has rated as the #1 team for about 85% of the season. Just dropped to #2. UConn's #1. I will stick with the Cougars. I trust Kelvin Sampson. They've gotten to the Final Four recently under him. Purdue is a value pick. Player of the year, Zach Edey. They are better this season than they were last season. They will be motivated. Matt Painter's a great coach. So, yes, I hate it. I might change it. I've got 3 1 seeds, and then I've got Arizona as the 2, and Tommy Lloyd breaking the spell. Past 2 seasons as a 1 and a 2 seed, failed to get to the second weekend here. I think he gets through the second weekend, and Arizona plays in Glendale for a Final Four.
All right, so who's winning it all? Who's cutting down the nets in Phoenix?
This I will not change. I vow to you. Not on the Eye on College Basketball podcast, not on CBS Sports Network, not on CBS Sports HQ. I will not change it. I've seen this team in person almost a dozen times this season. I've seen enough. It's in. UConn, national champions. They go back-to-back. Huskies become the first team since Florida, 06 and 07. And real quick, why am I going to do this? 1, the coaching is outstanding. 2, they have a tremendous culture. 3, they have Tristan Newton, a first-team All-American guard. They have Donovan Clingan, one of the most impactful defensive players in the country. Stephon Castle could be a lottery pick. Cam Spencer shoots better than 40% from 3-point range. They have everything, and they've got enough motivation to get this done. As I wrote after seeing them win the Big East tournament on Saturday night, if you think that because this team won a national title, swept the Big East regular season and conference, if you think that they've checked every box, you don't know UConn. You don't know Dan Hurley. They will be plenty motivated to do something that would truly raise them to iconic status in this sport.
You know, he also lives in the state of Connecticut, and I feel like every time you turn the faucet on and you get a little bit of water, a little Yukon water, and touches your lips a little bit, you just start drinking that little Kool-Aid. Matt is right. They're the best team in college basketball. I mean, there's no other way to say it. Their region is just brutal, and I think they're going to have dogfights throughout, and I think they're going to run into Illinois. My pick to win it all, and I said this in November, and they got to ride the wave, and I think they got a great seed as a 3. It's going to be #BBN. Big Blue Nation, that's right. The 4 guards from Kentucky, their backups are better than their starters. Reed Shepherd, Dillingham off the bench, Antonio Reeves, DJ Wagner. Now it's all going to come down to the others. Because when you get on that roller coaster with them, it is such a ride. You can get the Kentucky that beats Tennessee at Tennessee. You can get the Kentucky that gives them 100 points as playing defense. I think Cal pulls it all together. The talent is abundant. Give me Kentucky to win it all.
I'm going to go where I've been taken over the last couple hours here. And I knew who my Final Four was going to be. I figured it out. But Tim Doyle told me something important. They're about to run a marathon, but not everyone's running the same distance. I want the shortest distance to those nets. And according to Tim Doyle, that belongs to the heels. I'm going with North Carolina to win it all. Simply the easiest path of my 4 Final Four teams. Don't overthink it. Just shoot like his entire Final Four.
Well, the last time the Final Four was in Phoenix, North Carolina won it all. So there's a little bit of history there. But I like history to repeat itself. Give me UConn! Back-to-back national champs, cutting down the nets. Dan Hurley, Cam Spencer. UConn! No, you know what? Yes, I drink clean water from the state of Connecticut. It's filtered.
Both you guys.
Okay?
Connecticut guys, yeah.
Connecticut guys. Connecticut residents. It's going to be stores north in Boston. Okay? That's what it's going to be. Cutting down the nets. Chomp, chomp like Florida in 06-07. Let's go. Let's recap. Matt Norlander, dark horse, St. Mary's. They are so good defensively. His Final Four, UConn, Arizona, Houston, Purdue. UConn the favorite to cut down the nets. Tim likes McNeese State there.
That's
as
a
his dark
Cinderella,
horse.
by the way. That's a Cinderella.
By definition.
The Fighting Will Wades to make a little run. His Final Four, Kentucky, UNC, Illinois, Creighton, which is basically the bucket getters of the Final Four. And his national champion, Kentucky.